When the Cold War pushed soldiers into the most unforgiving regions on Earth, the greatest threat wasn't always the enemy watching from across the border. It was the cold itself, a silent force capable of killing in minutes. In Siberia, Greenland, northern Alaska, and the remote Arctic outposts, temperatures plunged so low that breath crystallized instantly and metal turned brittle like glass. Engines locked up, fuel froze solid, and even touching your own rifle without gloves could peel skin from your fingers. Yet somehow, through these hostile conditions, soldiers survived long nights and brutal missions without modern heaters, without fire, and without any obvious source of warmth. Their survival depended on a tiny, almost invisible invention developed during the early Cold War, a flameless heat source so quietly effective that it remained classified for years. The problem was simple but brutal. Traditional heating methods became useless in extreme cold. Liquid fuels like gasoline, kerosene, and diesel either thickened into paste or refused to vaporize. Propane tanks stopped releasing gas. Matches shattered. Lighters cracked. Even metal stoves broke under rapid temperature changes. And worst of all, anything involving flame instantly risked detection by enemy aircraft and scouts. A single spark could reveal a soldier's exact coordinates in a frozen, silent landscape. Commanders needed something that produced warmth without fire, without smoke, without noise, and without leaving a visible signature on the battlefield. Military engineers found their answer not in mechanical devices, but in chemistry. They developed compact heating packets based on controlled oxidation, a slow, steady reaction in which metals like iron or magnesium react with oxygen and release heat. It wasn't burning in the traditional sense. There was no flame, no smoke, no bright glow, just a gentle, dependable warmth created by carefully engineered mixtures of metal, powder, salt, and charcoal. When these packets were exposed to moisture, even just a soldier breathing into them, the chemical reaction activated and began producing heat. They were small enough to fit inside gloves, boots, and inner clothing layers, yet powerful enough to keep a soldier warm through sub-zero patrols. Soviet soldiers used simple but rugged pouches filled with finely ground iron filings, carbon powder, and activated salt crystals. A small amount of moisture triggered oxidation, while the construction of the pouch regulated airflow automatically. American versions were often packed in thin metal tins containing magnesium powder or calcium chloride mixtures. These were more advanced and produced heat quickly, sometimes hot enough to thaw frozen rations or warm rifle parts that had seized in the cold. Soldiers on both sides quickly learned that the real secret wasn't the ingredients, it was controlling how much oxygen reached them. With the right balance, these packs could last for hours, radiating warmth steadily and silently. These warmers became invaluable on missions. Soldiers slipped them inside layers at the chest to keep their core temperature stable. They tucked them into boots to prevent frostbite during long guard duty, and they used them to dry gloves or thaw frozen food when fires were impossible. Because the warmers produced no bright flame, they were safe to use inside tents, bunkers, and underground listening posts. In the remote Arctic, where even a small orange glow on snow could reveal a soldier's position from miles away. This invisibility meant survival. But not every soldier was issued warmers, and supplies ran out quickly in extended deployments. So militaries developed improvised versions that almost any soldier could assemble from common field materials. Declassified manuals from the 1960s describe techniques that were once highly restricted. Troops were taught how to crush steel wool, wet it with salt water, and seal it in cloth to create a slow, flameless oxidation heater. Others learned to shave magnesium from expired flares, mix the shavings with snow, and wrap the mixture in fabric to produce heat in emergencies. One of the most effective improvised heaters came from quicklime, calcium oxide, sealed with a damp cloth inside a tin can. The resulting reaction produced enough heat to thaw weapon bolts or keep medical supplies above freezing. The brilliance of these methods lies in their simplicity. They relied not on fuel, batteries, or technology, but on predictable, controllable chemistry. And that made them incredibly reliable in environments where nearly everything else failed. Batteries drained fast in extreme cold. Fuel canisters become useless. Electronics crack. But oxidation reactions continue no matter how low the temperature drops. That's why these flameless heaters became a standard part of Cold War cold weather doctrine across multiple nations. What makes this story even more fascinating is how relevant it still is today. In the modern world, outdoor enthusiasts and survivalists often rely on gear that works beautifully in mild conditions, but fails completely when temperatures drop far below freezing. Chemical warmers, whether store-bought or improvised, remain one of the few methods that continue to perform reliably in blizzards, whiteouts, and deep winter exposure. They can keep your hands functional, protect your core temperature, dry your clothing, warm frozen tools, and even help prevent hypothermia, all without a single spark. You can recreate a safe, modern version of the Cold War warmer with simple materials found in hardware stores: a small metal tin, iron powder or steel wool, a pinch of salt, a small piece of charcoal, and a damp cotton pad are enough to build an effective, flameless heat source. Seal the lid loosely so only a tiny bit of oxygen can enter, and the oxidation reaction will begin almost immediately, releasing a gentle heat for an extended period. It's a quiet demonstration of the same principle that helped soldiers stay alive through some of the harshest winters in military history. This forgotten technique isn't just a clever historical footnote. It's a reminder of what survival really means. It shows that true resilience doesn't always come from advanced gear or expensive equipment. It comes from understanding the natural forces around you and learning how to use simple materials to your advantage. The soldiers who relied on these flameless heaters weren't just following instructions. They were applying creativity, discipline, and scientific thinking under life-threatening conditions. Today, as we rediscover these Cold War fieldcraft methods, we see a valuable truth. Sometimes the most powerful survival tools are the ones fueled by knowledge, not technology. The Cold War forced soldiers to innovate, and the solutions they created remain just as practical and life-saving. Decades later, if you value lessons like these, the forgotten techniques, the hidden stories, and the practical science behind survival, then this is just the beginning. Because the most important survival knowledge isn't new. It's rediscovered, refined, and kept alive by those who understand its value.